being in love addictive relationships, crazy love addictive relationships with people who do not deserve you. This is something that I find is never too much to talk about because it is so easy to be connected to people who are not our best. And sometimes we don't realize that something is up until we are already there. And so, wanted to go down to basics to talk about what are some things for you to look out for if you are potentially in these relationships, you think you may be in these relationships, and you're having a hard time getting out. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, my name is Sheena Lachey. I am a love addiction and trauma coach. I was a licensed therapist for over 12 years, and now I help women heal from the symptoms of love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation, and the trauma that causes it to make way for healthy love in their life, starting first with themselves and then the relationships with others. I've helped hundreds of women over the last several years through my coaching programs, thousands if you include people who have bought smaller products, people who I've been the therapist of, and helping women actually in relationships that are with people who do not deserve them and enter relationships with people who are a better fit for them, or find life, peace, solace, and find themselves after spending years of their life being codependent with family members, being codependent in relationships that don't, again, are not on their level and just drain them, being love avoidant and pushing people away, helping women actually have deeper friendships, exit that fear, learn how to not be hypervigilant. This is what I talk about here, and this is what I do here. And so today we are talking about love avoidance. So if you're ready, not love avoidance, love addiction. So if you are ready to hear about that, go ahead and put a heart in the chat. Again, for those of you who are joining me for the first time ever, I really love the more we interact. I love answering questions and going deep. So if there's anything that I say that relates to a current situation that you have, one that you've been through before, or if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I'm happy to answer. So, today we're talking about stopping crazy love addictive relationships with people who don't deserve you. This is perfect for us going into the new year to make sure that we are leaving people behind that we're not taking with us. We actually just exited the full moon. And for those spiritual girlies who believe in this, the full moon is about closing cycles. So everything is pointing towards a change. Everything is pointed towards us doing something different in the new year. And I know some people are leaning towards just resolving, well, I'm just not going to do relationships, period. I'm just going to focus on myself. And here's the thing, when you don't have a plan of action, when you don't have anything that you're really shooting for, the habits just find a way to resurface, right? When you're just like, okay, I'm going to stop doing this and just avoid it. The reason why you're doing that, there has the root sources in the first place. You have not been seeking or been attracted to unavailable people and addictive relationships just because, right? Somewhere along the way, those types of relationships became your norm. They were things that even when the red flags are flying, dang near circus is in front of you, you can't see what is happening. You cannot see when it's too late until you're already a few months in, until you've already started to catch feelings, until you've already maybe started sleeping with them and now you're really connected to them. Maybe until you started helping them. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could be familial, it could be friends. You don't realize what is happening until you're already in it. And so that trauma of being betrayed in that way, that trauma of really thinking that you have your eyes open and you're doing your best only to be in that same place all over again, makes you really not want to put yourself out there. And so we continue to have this cycle where we're like, okay, I'm burned. So I'm just going to put relationships on hold. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to trust. And then you do that for a while and then you try again. Someone slips in. You think that this is different. You think the energy that you have with them is different, only to come to find out that it's just history repeating itself. And so we go into the cycle. And so it is really, really important that just like every other area of your life, we have plans, we have goals for our careers, we have goals for our health, we have goals for our money, and you can have goals for your relationships. I know that a lot of times when it comes to the issues of love, connection, support, it can feel like this is the one area of your life that you can't control, that you're just kind of like, just thrown out there. Just whatever happens, just fate happens. But here's the thing, you can prepare yourself to have better relationships. You can prepare yourself to at least be able to identify what is not what you want so that you can know what you do want. And I also do believe that you can attune yourself to what you do want and shift your energy, shift what you tolerate by increasing and healing your sense of self-worth and your self-concept and your sense of self-esteem. But we do that by looking at our trauma patterns. We do that by looking at what is it that these relationships have been giving us, right? What was the reason why I was connected to these people, or that I'm still connected to these people in the first place? What is it that I feel like that they give me that is hard for me to give to myself? What are the fears that come up? What are the insecurities that come up? What is the disappointment that comes up? What is the pain that has come up, even if I'm no longer attached to these relationships, but when I remember what it was like before, right? All of these things have information for us. There is no such thing as an experience that is lost, or something that cannot help us move forward. Okay? Let me know if that makes sense. Rest in Face says, hello, beautiful, great video topic. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you're here. Let me know if that makes sense, y'all, before we jump in. Okay. And let me know if I am talking to the love addicts. I know usually I have love addicts, but then also I have love avoidance. They're like, look, I couldn't care less about people. I can cut them off. I can cut them off with the quickness. But for the most part, usually it's a mix that we can go back and forth between the two. Lady Crawley said, blessings, queen, and love to everybody in the building. Hello, hello, lady. Okay. Yes, it makes sense. Awesome. Thank you, y'all. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about how to stop these. We, we have love avoidance in the building. What's up, my love avoidance? I love y'all. I love us. I love how we show up in the world and how we hold it down for the people in our lives. There's so much strength in our love avoidance as well that gets a bad rap, but that's a topic. We'll do love avoidance tomorrow for those of you who want to talk about not being love avoidant anymore. So here's the first thing that we're going to do to stop being in crazy love addictive relationships with people who do not deserve us. Okay. And this is being pulled directly from our Healed and Love Woman framework. For those of you who do not know, throughout my time here working with women to heal from love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation, I created a framework to help women know what is it that we're shooting towards. Okay. So it's not just that I'm going to stop trying to be love addicted. I'm going to go from being love addicted, so being in relationships where I kind of lose my personal power. I slip into what is kind of the buzzword that I've been seeing on the interwebs a lot lately, slipping into limerence, slipping into this over infatuation with relationships and obsession, trauma bond relationships. If I'm going to stop doing that, what is it that I'm moving towards? Well, I'm moving towards being love balanced. A lot of times people can feel like they have to be afraid of love, and kind of just cut love off. And for those of us who are the lover girls, so lady said, I'm a lover of love, but I go into phases of it, right? So for those of us who have deep hearts, for those of us who do want to be in companionship and be in connection, who do want to be able to be in friendships that we can trust, who do want to be able to build families and family traditions that feel good for us, for those of us who don't want to live in fear of someone hurting us, right? Us going numb and becoming robotic is not the answer. It's never going to work, which is why it's never worked before. If we could just shut that part off, then one, we would have done it. And then two, we would be missing out on the beauty of being human, the beauty of being in love, of being cherished, of being adored. So we don't want to let the sins and the mistakes of other people stop us from living our best life, stop us from being open and available to love. So what does that look like? It looks like us being able to be more love balanced. It looks like us being able to receive love and be able to be open to love, and also for us to be able to give love and give compassion and give generosity and give fidelity and give loyalty, but do that one with people who deserve it, to not do it at expense of ourselves, and to not do it in a way that makes it so that it prioritizes the other person and makes them and their comfort more important than our own. And all that takes a lot of us learning about ourselves, and also learning What does it actually feel like to be balanced? And many of us don't know what that feels like. We have one or two switches. We either are all the way on when we are in love addiction, we're either all the way on and like we're in it and like we are really concerned with, is this going to work? How do they feel? How do I feel in the relationship? Or we just try to go numb, which can also feel like love avoidance. So I help women go from being love addicted to love balance. The second part of the framework, which we'll talk about on a different day this week, is going from being love avoidant to being love available. So a lot of times people will think that their main task in working through this stuff is to stop over attaching to people who they are in toxic relationships with, and then all is well. But what really happens is once that starts to move out the way and you actually start having to learn how to let people in. If you have been living in love addiction for the majority of your life, you've not really had anyone who's actually looked at you and been able to see you and that required you to be vulnerable. You don't really know what that feels like. And if anything, when you've done that before, you've been hurt before. So your automatic reflex is to push people away or to be skeptical of it, or to not really know how to let your walls down or to sabotage it. That comes out reflexively. That's not even you trying, right? And for those of us who are love avoidant, primarily, we already know that we're usually the ones who are really good at cutting people off. We're really good at being busy. We're really good at having reasons why people are getting on our nerves and we need to cut cords. We're really good at finding reasons why this relationship is not going to work. And so, again, we just do it reflexively. And we are so clear that we just haven't met the right people yet. And once I meet the right person, then I'm going to be able to show up. And that's not how it goes. You're never going to be able to find the right person because you're not the right person within yourself. You're the common denominator. And I say that with love, and I say that with tenderness, and I say that with really a lot of self-compassion, because we have not learned how to feel safe within our own bodies, because we have not learned how to choose and to select healthy people for friends, romantic partnerships, and even people in our family. Love is fucking scary. Love is scary. And we will continue to run from love, even if it's the deepest thing that we truly, truly want and desire. Okay? So we have to balance going from being love addicted to love balance. We have to go from being love avoidant to love available. And then the third component is a three-step or three-legged model. When you see it as a triangle, I don't have a picture in front of me. I should probably get a picture and like laminate it and put it here. I'll work on that. I'll go to FedEx or something over the weekend. But the third leg is for us to go from being love deprived to being love nourished. When I've taught this in the past, I've talked about going from being love deprived to feeling love worthy. Because when you are in love deprivation and you're so used to taking care of other people and neglecting yourself, you're so used to, settling. You're so used to not believing that things are actually going to work out with you. A lot of us are kind of going through the motions and trying to get the most that we can. We're doing the vision boards, we're doing our manifestation list, we're making declarations of what we're going to take and what we're not going to take. We are romancing our lives, we're leaning into our own soft life. And there still feels like there's something that is missing. And I think especially if you haven't dealt with the roots of love addiction and love avoidance, sometimes you can be leaning into those things as an intermediary, right? Like you are doing these things because this stuff hasn't come to pass. And you're kind of thinking that, well, once this happens, then I'll really be happy, because you don't really know what it feels like to be love nourished on the inside. And when you don't feel love nourished, this is all interconnected to becoming love balanced and love available. When you are in love deprivation, you are more at risk of taking people, relationships, and standards that are below what you deserve, because you just want something. You just want anything. You just want to feel connected to someone. You just want to be done. You want to rest. You want to relax. You want to have that happy ending, right? And I think a lot of times we can get a lot of backlash from saying that out loud. I think years ago, the backlash was based on um, there was still a lot of celebration around women presenting as independent and not needing anybody, and like being self-reliant. And so to admit that you wanted to have love and have connection, seem like very silly, immature, weak. Um, Pick me was not as popular of a term back then, but in that pick me era, so people didn't really say that out loud. Now people are still afraid to say, I want love, I want connection, I want to feel safe. But now people don't say it because there is like this underlying fear that it doesn't exist. That is not something that you can actually achieve and have, that it's a fairy tale, that the few people who have it, they are far in between. And even the ones who do have it, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. So it's better to bet on myself. And so we have a lot of people who are trying to walk around with this innate desire to be connected, and you're trying to mute it, and you're trying um, to settle it, and you're trying to fill it with all these other things instead of filling it with your most important relationship, which is yourself. And once you're grounded with yourself, then it makes all the other relationships easier to connect to because you're grounded in you. And now you have relationships and connections that are connected to what you want and what you need, right? So when you separate one of the components, when you see the model, and I'm going to have a picture the next time. When you see the model, I intentionally made it a triangle because the triangle is the strongest shape in geometry. The triangle, you can put things on top of it, and it will not bend, it will not break. It is the strongest shape, no matter what the angles are. And that's what I want for all of us. I want us to all be fully connected so that we are strong, we are full, we are fully connected to ourselves, and we can have all of those intercomponents to have full connection to our love for ourselves and love for others. Right? Does that make sense? Thank you for the hearts. Um, you're describing my life. I want to change my patterns. Awesome. Great. Okay, so we're going to talk about it today. Like I promised, I saw some other comments that I did not get to go to. Let me read them real quick. Definitely love addicted, but not sure I've ever been loved back, but still haven't learned how to not do it. Oh, girl, that is. Let me, let me, let me hope I remember that, because if I don't get to talk about that on today's live, I want to talk about that for sure. Amen. We've got to go live together. My followers need to hear from you. Well, send me a DM. And my assistant Sarah will get it to me if I miss it. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're talking about stopping crazy love addicted relationships with people who don't deserve you. So this is pulling from our Heal and Love Woman framework. I needed to give y'all a background on that because I've not talked about the framework in a minute. I just teach from it, but I haven't talked about it. So to stop being in these love addictive crazy relationships, we need to first assess, do we trust this connection? Do we trust the person that we are with? What do I mean by trust? Do I trust that this person is going to protect me? Do I trust that this person is going to have my back? Do I trust that this person is going to expect the best of me? Do I trust that this person is going to take care of me without me owing them anything back? That they are not going to take tally marks on all this, right? Anytime I meet someone, and I can point this out because unfortunately, your girl has had to learn. I've had to learn not only through my own clients, but through life and experience, right? Whenever I meet someone who is with a relationship, no shade to anyone who's going to hear this, but when they're in a relationship with someone who is literally has a spreadsheet of every single thing that this person has done for them. And when I say literally a spreadsheet, I'm not exaggerating. I have heard that and seen that so many times. And again, I've been personally connected to those types of relationships as well, to where generosity is seen as a favor, and it is seen as something that is owed. To my young queen who said that she's loved people, but she doesn't know if anyone has loved her back. Do you trust that this person loves you just for you and not for what you can do for them? Right? That is part of it. So to stop being in crazy love addicted relationships, you have to assess, do I actually trust this person? Not do I want to trust them? Not do I have the potential to trust them if they get their things together, or if we work through this rough patch? Do I actually trust them? And for you to be able to do this, you need to be able to get clued into your body. So the main way that I help women do this is my recovery school program. So like I said, I used to be a therapist for over 12 years and I transitioned into coaching. And the recovery school is where I help women with all was where I help women with all of the things that I'm talking about. And one of the things that I've been talking about recently, especially as one of my favorite skills, is getting grounded in your body. Tapping is one of the skills that I talk about, but learning how to get in touch with what it is that you feel and why you feel that. Because to so love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation are all three trauma responses. They are, attachment styles, but they are all connected. They are all triggered by our fight or flight response. So a lot of times when I am talking to a woman to help her assess what it is that she wants, I cannot tell you how many times I'm asking someone what it is that she wants, and she will start to be like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And there's like so many different presentations of that anxiety. Sometimes it's like she gets giggling and she's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I just, she starts looking around and it's hard for her to put into words. It can also sometimes she can also deflate and be like, girl, I don't know. So she kind of gives up. So the first response is the fight response, which is like, I got to move. I got to look for exit. I got to like figure out a way to deflect what's going on, because for me to go into my body, to go into this place and actually tap into what I want, anytime that I've done that or been asked to do that, there has been a swift punishment that's come afterwards. Whether or not the punishment has been someone has taken away their attention and acted as if they really don't care what it is that I want, whether or not they've punished me for what I've said and told me that what I'm asking for is too much, whether or not I'm really trying to like beg someone to love me and take care of me, and having that sense of rejection and abandonment is deeply painful, even when you don't have words for it. And what happens is when you tend to have that type of trauma early on, your body gets used to it in that when it happens, it's not as novel of a response. So you're kind of like, the alarm bells don't go off that maybe this shouldn't be happening, because that kind of stuff has happened forever, right? So asking women what it is that they want, they will go into the fight response. The other one, the flight response, and like, girl, I don't know. So just like giving like, I'm just so tired. Like I just, what's the point of like hoping anymore? What's the point of asking for it when people don't show up how you want to do it anyway? So there's this resignation. The flight response that looks like running away, or playing dead is what it looks like in nature, right? So an animal like sees a predator and they like play dead and they just kind of like go numb. When we try to numb out from our emotions and our relationships, that happens too. And so why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because the first thing for you to do to be able to tap into, do I trust this connection, is you have to go within yourself. And it's really hard to go within yourself when there's trauma and there's all these things that are in the way. In my coaching program, I call this the weeds. The system that I use in the program to work through the Healed and Love Woman framework, I call it the Bloom model. Bloom, Bloom, because my belief is that once you have the seeds that you need to build the relationships and love that you want, you plant them, they harvest, they grow, they bloom, they flourish. What happens with many of us is we hear all these tips and tools from people. We listen to these podcasts, we listen to teachers, we read books that we really love, and we try to plant those seeds, but the seeds have a hard time growing. The seeds have a hard time growing because they're choked out by the weeds of our trauma, the weeds of our negative limiting beliefs and thoughts, the weeds of reflexive, avoidant, and addictive actions that make it so that every time we're making a step, it feels like it's really hard for us to push through. Um, we move forward in a relationship only to move back. We think we're changing our patterns, only to end up repeating it later on. We're actually making changes, but we actually sabotage it because it feels too new and too scary, and we're not sure we're going in the right way. So it's not that people don't have access to information that will help them. It is that the stuff that we are dealing with is not a mental or a logical problem. If it was just about logic and mental understanding, we would we wouldn't be here right now. I would be teaching Pilates right now on a beach somewhere. Like I would find something else to do with my life if it was just as easy as us mentally, logically understanding what's happening. What happens is our bodies are attuned to keeping us safe. It has decades worth of training and programming of where it has seen threats in our life, and it is so good at getting ahead of it and stopping us from making a mistake. The mistake our body feels like we're going to make is the change that we think is for our good, which is, let's talk about the topic for today: exiting crazy, traumatic, trauma bonded relationships. We think this is good. This is causing me so much distress. It's causing me so much sadness. It's making me doubt myself. It's not what I want. I feel like I'm being used. And our body is like, well, what if you do that? What if they change? What if you miss out on your chance of being happy? What if you go out there and you try to do something and it actually doesn't work out for you? What if people actually find out that you're not as good as you think that you are? What if who is actually going to stand by you because you've been through all these crazy relationships and this has been the only person that's really listened to you, and your friends are tired of you and your family isn't really there for you and you don't really believe in yourself? Just keep them as a friend. Like, your brain, your body will do everything it can to keep you at status quo because that's what it's used to. That's how it knows to keep you safe. It's better to keep you in places that are familiar versus novelty, because that's where the danger is. Your body, your brain, your spirit knows how to cope with that type of trauma, as weird as that may sound. So it will try to normalize you being in those situations and get ahead of you, right? And so it's really important for you to have extra support, y'all. I cannot emphasize this enough. I cannot emphasize this enough. What we are dealing with when it comes to our attachment issues is not a brain based thing. It's not about smarts. It's not about willpower. It's not about making promises to yourself. It doesn't matter how long your manifestation list is. If you have limiting beliefs around what you feel like you deserve, if you have limiting beliefs about what you actually can hold, if you have limiting beliefs about love and trust and connection, you are going to get in your own way. You have to heal the roots of these things. And you cannot see what you do not know is there. When you have been in these types of trauma patterns and relationships your whole life, it is very normal. Okay. And you don't realize it. And you can think that other people, if you're not open to it, you can think that other people are being haters. You can think that other people are just, trying to rain on your parade when they're pointing out red flags and stuff. You have to be ready to see it. You have to be ready to receive it. Okay. I see some comments over here. Hi, Varsh. Hello, hello. Var says, what if you're reaching your goals and people are being negative and trying to bring you down? So the first thing that I have for us to do when it comes to stopping crazy love addictive relationships with people who don't deserve you, the first thing that I said for us to do is to assess, do we trust this connection? So if I have people in my life that while I'm reaching my goals and they're being negative and trying to bring me down, do I trust them? Do you trust these people? And that is not me. That's an honest question for you. Because sometimes people will say something similar and say, like, I'm really trying to move forward, but like my mama is like bringing me down, or my partner is kind of bringing me down, or my best friend is giving me these what if scenarios. And I'll be like, okay, well, do you trust them? Do you feel like they're a healthy source in your life? And they'll answer will be something to the effect of, well, you know, they can be really negative stuff, but I know that they love me. And so, but even that's interesting, because that's not the same as, do you trust them? Do I feel obligated to this connection? Do I feel obligated to have some sense of loyalty to them? Is there a part of me that's afraid to cut things off because fill in the blank. That's why I think a lot of times people will push against the no contact process, which is one of the other processes that I teach within my program. And I've talked about several times on the podcast and other places as well. The no contact process of cutting out people who are toxic, that we're trauma bonded with, and that no matter what we've tried to do, trying to be friends, try to be balanced, try to, offer grace and support, it still keeps going sideways. And then I suggest the no contact process. And then to suggest that all of the insecurities, fears, trauma within gets kicked up. Because yes, it's bad, but not talk to them, all the what if scenarios come up. And it sounds like it's what if around them, but it's really what if around us. Will this be saved? Yes, it should be saved. As long as I don't get a phone call, but I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So one of those places, it will be saved. Okay? So do you trust that connection? The second thing that we are needing to do, if you're ready for the second thing, put a heart or a two in the chat. The second thing that we need to do to stop being in crazy love addictive relationships, I am pulling from our Healed and Love Women framework, which is where how I help women go from being love addicted to love balanced, to not be codependent, to not be attached to people and relationships that don't deserve them. I teach women that full process of how to do that in my recovery school program, that has served hundreds of women over the last, God, 5 years. 5 years, and watch people get engaged, watch people exit horrible marriages, watch people mend their marriages, watch people make better relationships with estranged family members, and watch people cut some family members off. So all this is like equal opportunity love and support. Wherever you go, there you are. So if you have a hard time holding your boundaries and knowing what you want, and romantic relationships, that's going to show up in your friendships, it's going to show up in your family, it's going to show up within yourself. So I really believe that relationships are a mirror. And so no matter where you start, as long as you are focusing on yourself and what you want, it's going to create real change everywhere you go. Okay, so number two, thank you so much for the twos. Thank you for the twos, ladies. Okay, so the second thing that we need to do to stop being in crazy, love, addictive relationships with those who don't deserve us is, this is going to sound the same, but it's really different. The first one is, do I trust this connection? The second one is, does this relationship make me feel good? Does this relationship make me feel good about myself? Do I feel more confident being in this relationship? Do I feel more confident? Do I like myself more now that I'm in this relationship? Okay. Var says no to both. Here's a mistake that I would make with a lot of relationships that I would be in. If someone were to ask me that question, do I like myself more? Am I happier in this relationship? I would I would rush through or miss the point of that question, because I would say I'm really content here. I'm comfortable here. So yeah, I am happy. I do feel good. But I didn't feel good. I was comfortable. Meaning I was in a relationship with someone who was not esteeming me, who didn't quite think that I was super special, you know, and maybe wasn't the biggest fan of pumping me up. But I was like, you know, I can pump myself up. I don't need that. I don't need anyone to esteem me or affirm me. I got this. I know who I am, kind of thing. And if you've listened to this podcast, or you've listened to any other things that I've put out, or maybe even other healers and creators, the relationships that you are in, the relationships that you're in, friendship or otherwise, the energy of those relationships will affect how you feel about yourself. It's just part of it. I always misquote it, but you know how people talk about, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most of your time around. So if your most intimate relationships are with people who do not pump you up, that do not celebrate you, who do not think that you're the bee's knees, you are going to slowly start to think less of yourself as well. So let's exit out of romantic partnerships. How many of you have been in frenemy relationships? You have been friends with people that you maybe spent a lot of time with. You might even shared a lot of deep personal things with, but you weren't quite sure, did they really like you back or not? Were they really there for you? Did they yes and you or yes but you when you had something good to say? How did that make you feel? Did that make you feel good? So this goes back to going into our body too and saying, okay, how does this make me feel? And can you even get there? If someone is asking you, how do you feel? Do you immediately respond with what you're thinking about instead of how do you feel? Do you even know where to place emotions in your body? If I ask you, where do you feel sadness in your body? Would you look at me crazy and be like, feel sadness in my body? I can tell you some sad thoughts that I have, but who feels sadness in their body? What does that even mean, right? Or do you have that mind body connection, which is a connection to your gut? It's a connection to your instinct. It's also a connection to your pleasure centers. It's also a connection to your nervous system that tells you when it's safe to relax and to let go versus when it's time for you to turn on and run. And if you're not connected to any of those centers, when those types of people who are toxic and unavailable for you come around, you're not going to know which way to go. And you're going to be more into your head or more into your patterns, which is like, well, I feel really comfortable with them because you don't understand that the reason you feel comfortable with them is because they're acting just the same way your daddy acted, or they're acting the same way that your mama acted, or they're acting the same way that your abusive grandmother used to act, right? And so that's why it's normal. That's why you feel comfortable with them, not because they're making you happier, but because you're used to this. They're speaking the same way, the energy that you get around them is the same. That's what's familiar. That's what's comfortable, not that this person is actually adding anything to your life, right? Var said, oop, right? Um, Var said, in a co parenting relationship and pretended to be my friend, I had to set firm boundaries. Good for you. And I am guessing and I'm betting that the boundaries that you set were based on what made you feel safe versus what they wanted. So good for you. I love that for you. Okay. Any questions about number 2? How do we change not wanting what's familiar? How do we change not wanting what's familiar? So the answer to that is to no longer be okay with being what's been normalized, like the abuse and things that's been normalized. One, it's calling it abuse, naming it abuse. So abuse is a really big word. And I think a lot of us have experienced abuse, but because it's been so normalized in our family and low key in the Black community too, that when someone calls something abusive, they wildin'. They acting up. It ain't that big of a deal. They doing way too much. Everybody has to have a think piece. And like people act as if what is happening because it's common that it's normal. Because it's common, that means that we should all be used to it versus that it is actually very destructive. So even just a few days ago when I did the Simone Biles video and I talked about I used the word abuse when I talked about how her husband talked about her. And, there were a lot of people who really related to it. And there were several people who were like, it's not that big of a deal. And like, you don't know what's going on. And one of the things that I have my students do in the program that I'm going to go ahead and encourage y'all to do it too, is to look up a list. I'm going to encourage y'all to look up a list of what constitutes abuse. And a lot of times, what comes top of mind is physical abuse. So, someone hitting you, throwing things at you, physically standing over you and intimidating you. We may even think of sexual abuse. So, coercion, assault, um, sexual coercion. I'm not sure if I'll be flagged for saying the RAPE word, but there's that. Sometimes we can even look at someone calling you out of your name and that kind of thing. But here's the thing that I say is the most common trauma with every single man, woman, person that I've ever worked with. Everyone has this trauma that I'm about to tell you. And it has caused people to have severe disassociation. So those of us who, when we think back to our childhood, that there are probably years and moments that we don't remember. That when people say, how do you feel about this? That we can't clock it. And that trauma is emotional neglect. It is deeply, deeply painful to be in the presence of someone who is tasked to love you and take care of you, and they dismiss you, they reject you, and they abandon you. It is doubly abusive and painful when not only are they neglecting you, they are actively humiliating you and downplaying your worth and your existence. Many of us know what that feels like, to have grown up in settings with people who treated us as burdens, who only attended to us when we were doing things for them that was for their benefit, that their love was dependent on mood and how they were feeling and how we were acting at the time, that their love was contingent on how we were taking care of them and somebody else, with how quiet and compliant we were being, right? That is so many of our stories. And again, that is the trauma that every single person, whether or not they grew up in a mansion with two parents and a dog and siblings and family reunions every week, or whether or not they grew up with a lot of poverty trauma and a single parent household with a lot of abuse, every single person from here to there who struggles with these intimacy and attachment issues struggles was had a background where they were not seen at some point, where they were not validated, where someone did not turn to them and say, your feelings and your safety matters to me. And because it mattered to that person, that adult, that caretaker, you learned as a little person that your feelings and your desires and what you want in your safety matters as well. And because you never learn it, you continue to be in relationships and be in settings and be in work environments with people who take you for granted, use you, abuse you, and you don't realize it until it's too late or until you're already in it. And then when you do realize it, you feel guilt or you feel conflicted with feeling that way. You maybe feel this intense anger and rage and wanting to defend yourself, and maybe sometimes you do, and maybe sometimes you shrink back, right? Because it was never modeled to you how to show up in these areas. So to answer all this is part of answering your question. Um, how do we change not wanting what's familiar? Is one by naming what is going on and that it is not right by calling it what it is. If you don't want to use the word abuse, use the word neglect. Use the word gaslighting. Use whatever label you need to use it as to let you know, to identify it as this is not what I want. Again, just because it is common does not mean that it is normal. If I want to protect my mental health, I stay off Twitter because Twitter, even though I don't directly follow these people, I guess the Twitter algorithm just knows that I will like linger a second too long to read these posts. But people will talk about all kinds of crazy stuff that is happening in their relationships. People who are being played, people who are being taken for granted, people who are giving people they shouldn't be given a chance, baby mama, baby daddy drama, like all this stuff. And just because it is common does not mean that it has to be normal for you. And I think sometimes we can see people who play these petty games and have these dysfunctional relationships and do all these things to cope with the trauma that can happen in intimate relationships. And we think, okay, well, that's just how it has to be. Then I have to figure out how to work it. No, 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 no. It can be common, but that does not have to be how you want your relationships to be. So I was looking at how are the things that have been happening around me? How have they made me feel? Going back into your body, like I said, going back into that body, tapping into your body. How does this make me feel? And if you can't tap into your body, um, working with someone, working with a coach, working with a therapist, working with someone to help you get in touch with those places in your body so that you can tune to, okay, this is what my body feels like when it feels like it's in danger or when something doesn't feel right. This is what it feels like in my stomach. What else do I feel when something doesn't feel right? Do I feel something in my throat? Do I feel something in the back of my neck? Do my hands start to shake? Do my feet get sweaty? What is it that you feel? Being very tapped into that, right? And once you learn how to do that and be attuned to that, it also gets easier for you to be attuned to what safety feels like, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Abuse is abuse, neglect is abuse. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Who's ready for number 3? Who is ready for the third way for us to stop crazy love addictive relationships with those who don't deserve us? If you're ready, put a 3 or a heart in the chat, a 3 or a heart in the chat. Thank you for those of you who are joining. We're talking about exiting these relationships in the new year. We ain't doing this no more. We are creating changes. I help women heal from this stuff in the recovery school. So I actually made something different. I did it over Christmas break and I haven't told y'all. So I've made it so that instead of just the main option to enroll and work with me, there are now 3 options. You can either get the curriculum on its own, and so you have full access to all of the coursework that helps you work through all the things that I'm talking about. Our dating programs, our love deprivation programs, all the bonuses, all the workshops, all the discounts that recovery school students get. A lot of times my recovery school students can join me in workshops and events and follow up things for free, and support groups and things for free. And you get lifetime access to that. So you can get the curriculum only. You can enroll in the main program that has me, our monthly group coaching calls, our community support group, and all the other ways that I help women every day. There's no expiration date for that. Again, I have women who joined this program years ago, and they're still coming to calls and they're still getting support from me. So there's that. And then the third option is the VIP option. So a lot of times women will be like, okay, group program, whatever, I want private time with you. So now there's an option that comes with one-on-one time, and you can just pick which one you want. Okay. So you can learn more about that by going to therecoveryschool.com. And you can join immediately so we can get our 2024 in the right spot. Okay. What about Canada? There are women from all around the world who are in this program. I've had women from South Africa to Germany to Switzerland to the UK to New Zealand. One student who's currently in Japan, she's in the military, and maybe somebody else who's in China. Yes. So all over. Women from all over. This is an online program. That's why I transitioned out of being a therapist so that I can help women around the world. And it was hard. I loved being a therapist. I loved being a therapist, but there was only one me. And I saw that women in my coaching program were getting better quicker and faster than women who I was working with in therapy. They had me every week, but coaching is a different process than therapy. Coaching is, here's our system, here's our steps, here's our model, let's work through it. Now that does not eliminate you from having to go through the emotional impact of all that. You still have to do the work. You still may end up crying. You still may end up having moments that, you start the program all gung-ho, and then you're like, I'm going to put this down and come back to it later, which is one of the things that I talk about when you first join the program, us getting distracted or getting this inspiration. Like you join the program and now you're like, you know what? I think I want to remodel my house. And you think that you're doing this big self-care thing, but really it's your nervous system being like, this is getting real. Let me do something else. But that's why it's good that the program is lifetime, because the women who do that come back and they're like, I ran away. Let me get down to business. And so that's what we do. Okay. So number 3, Miss Howard says she's ready for the whole book. The third thing to help you stop being in crazy love addictive relationships with those who do not deserve you. The third thing is to only seek people who are available for you. Only see people who are available for you. So today I was working on the availability book. I think that book is going to be done before the no contact guide, which I think is good, because even if you were to do the no contact guide first, for those of you who don't know, I'm writing 2 books on the no contact process and also how to find available people. If I were to do the no contact guide first, okay, you cut these people off, but one of the one of the main tasks for you is to figure out who's available for you. So I'm really excited to have that as a resource for y'all first. I'm gonna get that to the editor so I can get that to y'all hopefully at the top of the year. But finding people who are available for you is not just people availability in all different facets of your relationships, romantic, familial, and friendship wise. So, what does availability mean? Availability means, does this person care for you? Do they, kind of like with the trusting the connection, um, will they protect you? Do they have your best interests at heart? So actually, let me read a couple of things from the availability guide for you to know what are signs of availability. Let me pull up this book. To do to do. It's a lot of pages, y'all. Okay. So here are some signs of availability. Okay. So someone that respects your boundaries, someone that is supportive of you and your endeavors, someone who appreciates you, someone who is able to compromise, someone who includes you in their life. A lot of times, people will be in relationships with people who do not respect their boundaries, who are more concerned with what they want versus what you want and what you need to feel safe. They are not supportive of your endeavors. They're more concerned about what they want and what their priorities are versus being supportive of what's important to you. They are not appreciative of you. They will take, and never give. Or if they do give, again, it comes with um, a favor on the other side of it. You owe them. They will, what's the other ones that I said? Make sure I'm going with. I don't think I said this one, but I'll say it here. Include you in events. A lot of us can be connected to people who have a whole secret life, or maybe hide us from other people or treat us differently than they treat us in front of other folks. Um, what was the fifth one that I read? This is a long list of things that show that someone is available for you. I can't remember the other one I said, but you get my point. Am I with someone who actually cares about me and involving me in their life and cares about attending to what it is that I need and what I want? Okay, does that make sense? Let me know if you have any questions about that. Bar says that's amazing. Oh no, you're talking about the other thing. Does that make sense? Do y'all have any questions about seeking someone who is available? Thank you for putting that list of things. Number one, do you trust the connection? Number two, does it feel good? And three, not available. I'm going to change those. Um, do you trust their connection? Can you trust this person in general? Can you trust them with you? Can you trust them with your heart? Can you trust them with prioritizing you? Number two, do you feel more confident when you are around them? Do you feel happier with them? And number three, are they available to you? Right? Sometimes we will find people who are super busy and then be sad that they're busy. We will find people who hold things in and don't really want to share with us. And, it can be exciting at first because, like, we get them to open up a little bit and they are a little bit vulnerable. And then we take it as a sign that, this is potentially something that can go deeper. And we love a little project, but that person hasn't been available from the start. This person, how are they as far as their respect towards you and what they want from you? Are they starting off in a romantic context? Are they starting off with sexual jokes and innuendos when you first meet them? And did you ignore that thinking, well, I'm just going to keep rebuffing them. I'm going to keep shutting them down. And then they're going to get the point that I'm not that type of person. They told you from day one what kind of person they were. They told you what they were looking for. And just because you keep saying no, 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 you're just playing the game. It's just part of the chase. This person has shown you from day one what their intentions were with you. You cannot change or pivot someone's intentions with you. Y'all have heard me say, and I have yet to have a situation. Let me knock on some wood. I've yet to have a situation that when I hear the story, that person did not tell you and show you from day one what type of time they were on. If it wasn't what they did directly in front of you, is what you heard about them, is how they treated you, is the little things that they dropped into the conversation or omitted from the conversation. And so it really is about attuning yourself to pay attention to, um, what are these red flags, what are the dangers, but also what it is that you want. And so, is this person, even if I can't see the red flags, am I seeing the green flags that I want? Right? Am I seeing the things that actually make me feel safe and make it so that I can trust them? Okay. Any questions about any of the things that I've shared before I end this for today? We've been together for almost an hour. I am going to go over the rest of the framework of on over the next 2 days, because like I said, there are 3 different components of our triangle, and that's going into 2024. We need to be showing up in our relationships differently. We are going to be doing things differently in 2024. Okay? No, we're good. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to helping y'all make these changes. Again, the Recovery School now has 3 options for your enrollment. The curriculum only, which is a more economic based one for those who are wanting that, who are wanting the change, but maybe cannot do the other options right now. The one that is our main traditional version, with lifetime access as well to for have group coaching support groups and circles, all the other bonus materials as well, and then of course the VIP option to have one-on-one calls with me as well. So you can learn more about that by going to therecoveryschool.com. Is it okay to want validation outside of yourself? Here's what I'll say about that, and that should probably be another topic too. Um, Something that I'm learning is my love language is words of affirmation. I have my 2 love languages are words of affirmation and gifts. Tell me I'm pretty and buy me food and pretty things. That's what I want. I would love to like spend time and cuddle and be all under you and everything if we're in romantic context. But across all relationships, I want you to tell me I'm pretty and I'm special and da 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 and I'm so funny and da 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 da. That's what I want. But what I'm learning and what I've learned is that it doesn't matter how much someone esteems you on the outside, if you don't believe it on the inside, is never going to be enough. Right after someone gives you that compliment, you're going to doubt it. You're going to believe that it's not true. And if anything, in an intimate relationship, that's why many of us, especially when it comes to the love addiction portion, if we are in a love addictive relationship, or if even if we're with someone who is securely attached, but we haven't dealt with that own internal insecurity and pain, we can have someone who is so affirming and so validating and so present and so loyal, but we will still get in our head thinking, I wonder if they think someone else is prettier than me, or I wonder if they're getting bored of me, or I wonder if they actually like me, or I wonder if whatever your internal fears and insecurities are, you will project them onto them, and you will start to create this anxiety. Again, no matter how present and amazing this person is, because you are the common denominator. Okay? So, is it okay for you to want external validation? Absolutely. Like when we are in partnerships, we're choosing someone to do life with, to do journey with, and in us deciding to bring these people along for the ride, friendship, romantic, or family, that requires us to get to know that person, what makes them tick, what makes them happy, how to love them and support them. We're not recruiting people to be fans and to like placate us. It is a mutual give and take, right? And so for it to be mutual, to be able to feel the love from the people who you have into your tribe is a beautiful thing, right? However, that if that is your only source, or rather your main source for validation, because you don't know how to esteem yourself, or when you do esteem yourself, it feels empty, or there's lack, or it doesn't really connect, then you're always going to feel that emptiness, right? And so that's why when I was saying earlier about the blooming and like the weeds choking things out, telling myself affirmations every day, right? I'm planting the seeds, I'm doing the mirror work, like people say, but it's not connecting. It feels like it's hitting something hollow. That's why we need to work through the traumas and the things that are around it. So all these good skills and all these things that we're doing to really change our life and our self-concept actually takes root. All right. And those are the things that we do and talk about in the recovery school. So thank you so much, ladies. I will see you tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Bye. Bye, y'all.